back with more Barnstable this morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and now joining us live on the phone from the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, Peter Judge. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah.
So what is the latest, Peter, that we're hearing from MEMA and from the National Weather Service in terms of this storm? It seems a little less foreboding, at least right now, as it was the last time we talked.
You're right, but this is, I guess, a tale of two storms. You could probably draw a line from Connecticut up to Boston, and everything south of that line, particularly the Cape and the islands and the South Shore of Boston, really got whacked with this storm, and everything else north and west of that line. It's a little snowy morning people are waking up to. So it's certainly. It's not over yet, but by any means. I mean, that's one thing I want folks to, particularly the folks down in the Cape, to really be aware of. This is going to go through the day. There's going to continue to be very, very strong winds as well. So any travel out there is going to be precarious because your visuals are not going to be what they normally are.
Absolutely, and again, very important to remember that we are still kind of in the middle of this, and we will have snow continuing throughout the day. And of course, the more snow that piles up, the higher the winds get, the more snow that's going to blow across those roads and make it very difficult to see, which knowing from being out on the road the last storm certainly was not something that I would like to do again.
Right, and I guess if there's an upside to this, an upside to these very frigid temperatures is we're going to keep basically getting the same consistency of snow that we got the initial storm of the year. It's been light and fluffy. In that regard, it's really minimized the number of outages associated with this storm. So we're seeing very, very few trees or lines coming down anywhere in the state, even though we've got very, very strong winds. And, we have literally in excess of a foot of snow in many locations.
Exactly. For right now, where are you seeing the most affected areas, the hardest hit areas, Peter?
Right now, really starting at the South Shore, south of Boston, Norwell, Hingham area, but really sort of along the coast, if you will, and then just dropping down, basically then the rest of the southeast Massachusetts, the south coast, down into Rhode Island, and then certainly the Cape and the islands, where, as you mentioned, it's going to continue really throughout the day. So this is not going to be a short-lived event for the folks down the Cape.
Exactly. And the last time, during the last storm, we did have some worry about coastal flooding, about astronomical high tides. Is that a concern during this storm as well?
No, fortunately, it's a 180 from what we saw for the previous storm. The 3 o'clock high tide, 3 a.m. high tide was really an astronomically low high tide. So in that regard, we've not reported, haven't heard of any issues relative to any coastal flooding events. I'm sure somewhere around the way you can find locations. Maybe there was some splash over, and there was some minor impacts, but for the most part, it certainly was not a coastal event like we saw last time.
So certainly good news. So really, as we keep an eye on this during the day, Peter, what are your recommendations for people? Obviously, we have a lot of school cancellations, a lot of delayed openings. So I would assume that probably the advice to start with is if you don't have to go anywhere, if you're non-essential, then probably staying put for now is the best idea.
Exactly right. But on two fronts. One is obviously the driving issues out there. You want to allow the folks with the plows on the trucks to be able to do their jobs and to get this thing cleaned up as quickly as possible. And also the driving itself is not going to be particularly safe, particularly with the poor visibility. But also remember these incredibly low temperatures and these high wind chill factors. So, we're not telling everybody who's going to stay inside, particularly all the kids who are going to be home. But you want to monitor your amount of time outside. Break it up. Don't spend the whole afternoon outside doing stuff. If you can, go out for an hour or so, and you're starting to get cold, feeling uncomfortable, come in for a while, warm up, and then maybe go back out a little later. So, really pay attention, because this is the snow is going to stop at some point, but this wind chill is going to stick around with us for the next 2 or 3 days. So we want people to really be aware of that and just take, common sense precautions.
Absolutely. And, right now, as you say, power outages really not an issue, and hopefully not anticipating that to be an issue as we go through the day.
Right. Like I said, it's not heavy, wet snow. So if folks are losing power, it's a real localized event, and it may not be related at all to the weather, other than maybe some guy hit a utility pole and slid and basically brought down a neighborhood's worth of power. But those type of minor things are being resolved very, very quickly if in fact they are occurring. So it's not a long-term event. In case you do lose your power, like I said, it's probably going to be just a small localized event.
Great. Well, Peter, I thank you so much for joining us this morning. Always a pleasure to have you here on the show, and wish you luck through the rest of the day. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Everyone be safe now.
All right. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.